Canto 10. And now advance we by a narrow track, between the torments and the ramparts high, my master first, and I behind his back. O mighty virtue, at whose will am I wheeled through these impious circles? Then I said, speak, and in full my longing satisfy. The people who within the tombs are laid, may they be seen? The coverings are all thrown open, nor is there any guard displayed. And he to me, all shall be fastened down when hither from Jehoshaphat they come again in bodies which were once their own. All here with Epicurus find their tomb, who are his followers, and by whom 'tis held that the soul shares the body's mortal doom. Things here discovered then shall answer yield, and quickly to thy question asked of me, as well as to the wish thou hast concealed. And I, good leader, if I hide from thee my heart, it is that I may little say, nor only now learned I thus dumb to be. O Tuscan, who, still living, makest thy way modest of speech through the abode of flame, be pleased a little in this place to stay. The accents of thy language thee proclaim to be a native of that state renowned, which I, perchance, wronged somewhat. Sudden came these words from out a tomb which there was found mongst others, whereon I, compelled by fright, a little towards my leader shifted ground. And he, turn round, what ails thee? Lo, upright beginneth Farinata to arise. All of him above the girdle comes in sight. On him already I fixed mine eyes. Towering erect with lifted front and chest, he seemed Inferno greatly to despise. And I toward him, I among the tombs was pressed by my guide's nimble and courageous hand, while he, choose well thy language, gave pest. Beneath his tomb when I had ta'en my stand, regarding me a moment, of what house art thou? As if in scorn he made demand. To show myself obedient, anxious, I nothing hid, but told my ancestors, and listening, he gently raised his brows. Fiercely to me they proved themselves adverse, and to my sires and party. Then he said, because of which I did them twice disperse, I answered him. And what, although they fled twice from all quarters, they returned with might. An art not mastered yet by these you led. Beside him, then there issued into sight another shade, uncovered to the chin, propped on his knees, if I surmised aright. He peered around as if he fain would win knowledge, if any other was with me. And then, his hope all spent, did thus begin weeping. By dint of genius, if it be thou visit this dark prison, where, my son? And I to him, I come not here alone. He waiting yonder guides me, but disdain of him perchance was by your Guido shown. The words he used and manner of his pain revealed his name to me beyond surmise. Hence was I able thus to answer plain. Then cried he, and at once upright did rise, how saidst thou was? Breathes he not then the air? The pleasant light no longer smites his eyes? when he of hesitation was aware, displayed by me informing my reply, he fell supine, no more to reappear. But the magnanimous, at whose bidding I had halted there, the same expression wore, nor budged a jot, nor turned his neck awry. And if, resumed he, where he paused before, they be indeed but slow that art to learn, then this my bed, to hear it pains me more. But ere the 50th time anew shall burn the lady's face, who reigneth here below, of that sore art thou shalt experience earn. And as to the sweet world again thou'st go, tell me, why is that people so without ruth for my race, as all their statutes show? And I to him, the slaughter and the rout, which made the Arbia to run red, cause in our fane such prayers to be poured out. Whereon he heaved a sigh and shook his head. There I was not alone, nor to embrace that cause was I without good reason led. But there I was alone, when from her place all granted Florence should be swept away. 'Twas I defended her with open face. So may your seed find peace some better day. I urged him, as this knot you shall untie, in which my judgment doth entangled stay. If I hear rightly, ye, it seems, descry beforehand what time brings, and yet ye seem neath other laws as touching what is nigh. Like those who see best what is far from them, we see things, said he, which afar remain, thus much enlightened by the guide supreme. To know them present or approaching, vain are all our powers, and save what they relate, who hither come, of earth no news we gain. Hence mayest thou gather in how dead a state shall all our knowledge from that time be thrown, when of the future shall be closed the gate. Then, for my fault, as if repentant grown, I said, report to him who fell supine, that still among the living breathes his son. And if I, dumb, seemed answer to decline, tell him it was that I upon the knot was pondering then, you helped me to untwine. Me now my master called, whence I besought with more than former sharpness of the shade, to tell me what companions he had got. He answered me, some 1,000 here are laid with me, 'mong these the 2nd Frederick the Cardinal, 2 of others not be said. Then was he hid, and towards the barred antique I turned my steps, revolving in my brain the ominous words which I had heard him speak. He moved, and as we onward went again, demanded of me, wherefore thus amazed? And to his question I made answer plain, within thy mind let there be surely placed. The sage bade, what 'gainst thee thou heardest say? Now mark me well, his finger here he raised. When thou shalt stand within her gentle ray, whose beauteous eye sees all, she will make known the stages of thy journey on life's way. Turning his feet, he to the left moved on. Leaving the wall, we to the middle went upon a path that to a vale strikes down, which even to us above its foulest sent. Canto 11. We at the margin of a lofty steep, made of great shattered stones in circle bent, arrived where worser torments crowd the deep, so horrible a stench and violent, was upward wafted from the vast abyss. Behind the cover we for shelter went of a great tomb, where I saw written this: Pope Anastasius is within me thrust, whom the straight way Fontinus made to miss. Now on our course a while we linger must, the master said. Be but our sense resigned a little to it, and the filthy gust we shall not heed. Then do thou but find some comprehension, lest our time should run wasted. And he, behold, 'twas in my mind, girt by the rocks before us, O my son. Lie thee small circles, he began to tell, graded like those with which thou now hast done, all of them filled with spirits miserable. That sight of them may thee henceforth suffice. Hear now, and wherefore in these groups they dwell. Whatever in heavens abhorred as wickedness has injury for its end, in others bane by fraud resulting or in violent wise. Since fraud to man alone doth appertain, God hates it most, and hence the fraudulent band, set lowest down, endure a fiercer pain. Of the violent is the circle next at hand to us, and since 3 ways is violence shown, 'tis in 3 several circuits built and planned. To God, ourselves, or neighbours may be done violence, or on the things by them possessed, as reasoning clear shall unto thee make known. Our neighbour may by violence be distressed with grievous wounds, or slain, his goods and lands by havoc, fire, and plunder be oppressed. Hence those who wound and slay with violent hands, robbers and spoilers, in the nearest round, are all tormented in their various bands. Violent against himself may man be found, and 'gainst his goods, therefore without avail. They in the next are in repentance drowned, who on themselves loss of your world entail, who gamble and their substance madly spend, and who, when called to joy, lament and wail. And even to God may violence extend, by heart denial and by blasphemy, scorning what nature doth in bounty lend. Sodom and Cahors hence are doomed to lie within the narrowest circlet surely sealed, and such as God within their hearts defy. Fraud 'gainst those who bite no conscience findeth shield. A man may use with one who in him lays trust, or with those who no such credence yield. Beneath this latter kind of it decays the bond of love, which out of nature grew. Hence, in the second circle, heard the race to feigning given and flattery, who pursue magic, false coining, theft, and simony, pimps, marauders, and such like residue. The other form of fraud makes nullity of natural bonds, and what is more than those, the special trust, whence men on men rely. Hence in the place whereon all things repose, the narrowest circle and the seat of dis, each traitor's gulfed in everlasting woes. Thy explanation, master, as to this is clear, I said, and thou hast plainly told who are the people stowed in the abyss. But tell why those the muddy marshes hold, the tempest-driven, those beaten by the rain, and such as, meeting, virulently scold, are not within the crimson city ta'en for punishment, if hateful unto God, and, if not hateful, wherefore doomed to pain? And he to me, why wander thus abroad, more than is wont thy wits? Or how engrossed is now thy mind, and on what things bestowed? Hast thou the memory of the passage lost, in which thy ethics for their subject treat of the three moods by heaven abhorred the most, malice and bestiality complete, and how, compared with these, incontinence offends God less, and lesser blame doth meet? If of this doctrine thou extract the sense, and call to memory what people are above, outside, in endless penitence, why from these guilty they are sundered far, thou shalt discern, and why on them alight the strokes of justice in less angry war. O sun that clearest every troubled sight, so charmed am I by thy resolving speech, doubt yields me joy no less than knowing right. Therefore, I pray, a little backward reach, I asked, to where thou sayest that usury sins 'gainst God's bounty, and this mystery teach. He said, who gives ear to philosophy is taught by her, nor in one place alone, what nature in her course is governed by, even mind divine, and art which thence hath grown. And if thy physics thou wilt search within, thou'lt find ere many leaves are open thrown, this art by yours, far as your art can win, is followed close, the teacher by the taught. That as grandchild then to God, your art is kin. And from these two, do thou recall to thought how Genesis begins. Should come supplies of food for man, and other wealth be sought. And since another plan the usurer plies, nature and nature's child have his disdain, because on other ground his hope relies. But come, for to advance I now am fain. The fishes over the horizon line quiver, o'er Caurus now stands all the wane, and further yonder does the cliff decline. Canto 12. The place of our descent before us lay precipitous, and there was something more, from sight of which all eyes had turned away, as at the ruin which upon the shore of Adige fell upon this side of Trent, through earthquake or by slip of what before upheld it. From the summit whence it went, far as the plain, the shattered rocks supply some sort of foothold to whom makes descent. Such was the passage down the precipice high, and on the riven gully's very brow lay spread at large the Cretan infamy, which was conceived in the pretend cow. Us when he saw, he bit himself for rage, like one whose anger gnaws him through and through. Perhaps thou deemest, called to him the sage, this is the Duke of Athens drawing nigh, who war to the death with thee on earth did wage. Begone, thou brute, for this one passing by untutored by thy sister has thee found. and only comes thy sufferings to spy. And as the bull, which snaps what held it bound, on being smitten by the fatal blow, halts in its course, and reels upon the ground, the Minotaur I saw reel to and fro, and he, the alert, cried, "To the passage haste!" while yet he chafes, "'Twere well thou down shouldst go." So we descended by the slippery waste of shivered stones, which many a time gave way 'neath the new weight my feet upon them placed. I musing went, and he began to say, "Perchance this ruined slope thou thinkest on, watched by the brute rage, I did now ally. But I would have thee know, when I came down the former time into this lower hell, the cliff had not this ruin undergone. It was not long, if I distinguish well, ere he appeared, who wrenched great prey from out the upmost circle. Trembling fell through all its parts the nauseous abyss, with such a violence the world, I thought, was stirred by love. For, as they say, by this she back to chaos has been often brought, and then it was this ancient rampart, strong was shattered here, and at another spot. But toward the valley look, we come ere long down to the river of blood, where boiling lie all who by violence work others wrong. O insane rage! O blind cupidity! By which in our brief life we are so spurred, ere downward plunged in evil case for aye. An ample ditch I now beheld engird and sweep in circle all around the plain. As for my escort, I had lately heard, between this and the rock, in single train, centaurs were running, who were armed with bows, as if they hunted on the earth again. Observing us descend, they all stood close, save 3 of them, who parted from the band with bow and arrows they in coming chose. What torment, from afar, one may demand. Come ye to share? Who'll now descend the hill? I shoot, unless ye answer whence ye stand. My master said, We yield no answer till we come to Chiron, standing at thy side. But thy quick temper always served thee ill. Then, touching me, 'tis Nicias, he who died with love for beauteous Dejanire possessed, and who himself his own vendetta plied. He in the middle, staring on his breast, is mighty Chiron, who Achilles bred, and next the wrathful Pholos. They invest the fosse, and in their thousands round it tread, shooting whoever from the blood shall lift more than his crime allows his guilty head. As we moved nearer to those creatures swift, Chiron drew forth a shaft, and dressed his beard back on his jaws, using the arrow's cleft. And when his ample mouth of hair was cleared, he said to his companions, Have ye seen the things the second touches straight are stirred, as they by feet of shades could never have been? And my good guide, who to his breast had gone, the part where join the natures, well I ween he lives, made answer, and if, thus alone, he seeks the valley dim 'neath my control, necessity not pleasure, leads him on. One came from where the Alleluias roll, who charged me with this office strange and new. No robber he, nor mine a felon soul, but by that power which makes me to pursue the rugged journey whereupon I fare, accord us one of thine to keep in view, that he may show where lies the ford, and bear this other on his back to yonder strand. No spirit he, that he should cleave the air. Wheeled to the right, then Chiron gave command to Nisus, turn and lead them, and take tent they be not touched by any other band. With our trusty escort forward went, threading the margin of the boiling blood, where they who seethed were raising loud lament. People I saw, up to the chin imbrued. These are all tyrants, the great centaur said, who blood and plunder for their trade pursued. Here for their pitiless deeds tears now are shed, by Alexander and Dionysus fell, through whom in Sicily dolorous years were led. The forehead with black hair so terrible is Etzelino, that one, blonde of hue, Obizzo d'Este, whom, as rumors tell, his stepson murdered, and report speaks true. I to the poet turned, who gave command, regard thou chiefly him. I follow you. Ere long the centaur halted on the strand, close to a people who, far as the throat, forth of that Bulicami seemed to stand. Thence a lone shade to us he pointed out, saying, in God's house ran he weapon through the heart, which still on fame's winds cult devout. Then I saw people, some with heads in view, and some their chests above the river bore, and many of them I, beholding, knew. And thus the blood went dwindling more and more, until at last it covered but the feet. Here took we passage to the other shore. As on this hand thou seest still abate in depth the volume of the boiling stream, the centaur said, so grows its depth more great, believe me, towards the opposite extreme, until again its circling course attains the place where tyrants must lament. Supreme justice upon that side involves the pains with Attila, once of the world the pest, Pyrrhus and Sextus, and for ever drains tears out of Rinier of Cornetto, pressed, and Rinier Pazzo in that boiling mass, whose brigandage did so the roads infest. Then turned he back alone, the ford to pass.